was absolutely a serious suspect. This is a case that over 2,000 people have been named as potential suspects, but he came up over and over again for several reasons. One, he was actually seen in the vicinity of a couple of the murders that happened about 6 months after the Zodiac spree began, or at least that we know of. A friend of his reported only a year later that he had talked about his desire to kill, that he liked using the name Zodiac. Strange coincidences, if they were. He had a watch that was by the brand Zodiac. He talked about wanting to put a flashlight on a firearm so he could see better at night. Now, several search warrants were conducted of his home over the years. When he died, which was in 1992, they did a search of his home and took out evidence. I also think it's very important to point out, in fairness, that when they did look at a partial print and a partial genetic profile DNA of his, they were not a match to the Zodiac. So that means that that certainly wasn't him. Does it conclusively prove it wasn't him? No.
And the fingerprint, who knows? It could have just been an arbitrary fingerprint. I don't. There was so little evidence; it's hard to tie that all together. In fact, there are a lot of conspiracy theories, Melissa, because of that. Because there's an easy way of making up stories about who the Zodiac killer truly is.
I think the most absurd one is that the theorist is that the Texas Senator Ted Cruz is the culprit. But I mean, he was born 2 years after the first known killing, so that's not possible. Then you saw, like, there's also Manson, that they think members of the family of the Manson were, you know, committing these crimes. Also, lately, there's been a lot of people saying my relative is the Zodiac killer. So
this is a call. It's screaming for some help. Derek, the Zodiac killer, like other serial killers, was taunting the media, taunting police. So, as a police officer, retired officer, what do those actions tell you about his crimes and who he is, about his identity?
Well, he's not much different than killers today, right? It's about notoriety. It's not enough just to commit the heinous act. They want people to know they got away with it. Ironically, that self-confidence can sometimes lead to a false sense of security, which will ultimately get them caught. You look at the Unabomber, right? Yes. He started getting cocky, he started writing these letters, this manifesto, and that's why he was ultimately arrested. So it could end up coming back to bite him in the end.
Can I ask you a difficult question?
Yeah.
You know, like it's one that I think may startle the audience. He claims to have killed 37 people. Right? 5 we actually know he killed, but the other ones we're not sure about.
Yeah.
How many people could he have actually killed?
The numbers are unlimited. I mean, we may never know exactly how many people he killed. Sometimes serial killers will tend to take credit for murders they didn't commit to kind of create their own narrative and boost their own egos. But at the end of the day, when investigators are looking at it, there may be cases that look similar to past killings of the Zodiac. They may associate it with him. And then there are outliers that aren't exactly the same exact situation. You may have a different type of victim, manner of death, but they are connected. So as far as pinpointing the exact number, we may never know.
So what percentage of murders go unsolved in America?
Well, the national number is approximately 40%.
How many of you knew that 40% of all murders go unsolved? They're like 5 people max, and we have the smartest audience in television. That's remarkable. Yeah. That's absolutely remarkable.
Well, that's why we do what we do. That's why, as a private investigator, you try to help out, because again, a lot of situations, law enforcement is inundated with cases, and they can only spend so much time on it. They follow up the leads, and they kind of have to put it aside and wait for a lead. And but we can't do that. We have to keep pursuing it for the family.
Hopefully, technology today can help us look back, which is exactly what you're hearing here with the success of the Golden State DNA. That is exactly what prompted people to now start looking at this again, to see if advancements in technology. Homicides are never closed. Every family deserves an answer. So let's hope that we can look back and solve more of those.
That's why we do this show.